In the 1940s, World War II pilots joined the long list of UFO eyewitnesses. Some of these pilots would later come forward to tell their stories as interest in UFOs increased after the war.
Pilots on all sides of the conflict, the Axis and the Allied pilots, reported strange objects, sometimes flying off the wingtips of their airplanes, and seemingly exhibit intelligent maneuvering. If you tried to fly the airplane toward it, the object would fly along with you and just keeping off the wing, or dive down or fly above. You couldn't catch up with it.
I talked to a pilot of a B-24 bomber during World War II, and he said one circled around their airplane. Round, smooth, sleek. They all expected to die instantly because this must be a new German secret weapon and it was going to shoot them down. We sure don't have anything that looks like that and flies like that.
I have one account where they actually fired at it. They seemingly went through it. They didn't damage the object at all. Allied pilots thought they were secret weapons of the Germans. Germans thought they were secret weapons of the Allies, England and America, and they were even seen in the Pacific theater.
However, after the war, it became clear that neither the Allies nor the Axis had produced these super aircraft. Someone else had.
And they did exhibit maneuvering that, again, was much like the types of objects that were seen immediately after the war ended and called flying saucers.
I've got a message for all the scumbags, losers, killers, and haters of this world. Evil must be punished.
The history of UFO sightings is not a long one, but it's a bit longer than most people suspect. To start to make sense of UFOs, you must go back 63 years. To the Second World War and these men, and what some of them saw in the night skies over Europe. Allied aircrews described strange glowing balls of light that tracked their aircraft, and even coined a name for them, Foo Fighters. This is one of the first recorded reports of a UFO sighting. It's taken from the official RAF archives, and it is highly unusual. It recounts the story of one pilot officer called B.C. Lumsden, who saw something extremely unusual during a bombing raid over Germany on the 7th of December 1942.
We were cruising at 7,000 feet when we discovered we had company, an orange-coloured light off the port wing. At first I thought it was tracer flak, but discounted this when I saw how slowly and controlled it was moving.
What the hell is it?
It seemed to be playing with Red Tooth, diving around the fuselage. Suddenly it turned starboard and headed straight for us. I found it hard to make other members of the squadron believe me, but the following night, one of the squadron flight commanders had a similar experience, with a green light.
It's gone! It's gone! It's gone!
A handful of Foo Fighters sightings could be dismissed as pilot error, but there were hundreds, if not thousands. Could they really just be the hallucinations of tired or terrified men? I've decided to find out more about these strange balls of fire. Military historians Dave Clark and Andy Roberts are leading experts on UFO sightings during the Second World War.
People were seeing tiny balls of light, not much bigger than a beach ball, say, to full-blown flying saucers in the style that we would appreciate today. And there's a problem of reporting them at debriefing, because if you had bomber crews landing and saying, you know, we saw these peculiar lights chasing us for miles and miles and miles, some of the bomber crews I've spoken to were fearful that they'd get grounded for lack of moral fibre, for, you know, for inventing things to get them grounded, some form of psychological problem. First, the RAF and the Air Ministry were extremely concerned because they thought perhaps it was some form of German secret weapon. And it is known that the Nazis did have some quite novel varieties of anti-aircraft, such as Scarecrow and things of that nature, which threw huge metal bars around in the sky, which people saw. And that was designed to unnerve people as much as to damage aeroplanes.
These designs, lifted from secret engineering blueprints seized by the Allies at the end of the war, show just how radical the Nazis' aerospace programs were. And it was plans like these that were unsettling the Allied forces. Going through American files of the kind of technological plunder operation that they did on Germany after the war, they do describe technologies that could be pieced together to develop a kind of Foo Fighter type weapon.
They were working on all these bizarre little things, but none of these things ever came to fruition. Had the war gone on much longer, or had the Germans won, then we may have seen these things develop in the same way that we saw the Americans develop space technology after the war.
The evidence for Foo Fighters is intriguing, but I wonder whether there is anything more than the log reports by the pilots who described screaming dogfights with strange balls of light.
Our first concrete, verifiable record of the light beings, as I call them, our true creators, was what was known as Foo Fighters in World War II. Our bombers would be escorted by these UFOs, and the Germans wouldn't go around. The Germans swore up and down that these Foo Fighters were some sort of brand new Allied air superiority fighter that was escorting our bombers to their target, and they would not approach. They would not approach, despite the fact that the Germans had incredible secret weapons out there. The Me-262 jet fighter, the Me-163 Comet rocket fighter, not to mention the Focke-Wulf TA-152 air superiority fighter, which, although it was a piston engine craft, was capable of incredible speeds. It was clearly superior to the P-51 Mustang in every way, shape, and form. Had these planes intercepted our bombers at key times during the war, they would have devastated them, and we would have lost the war. Much of World War II lay in the Allied bombing effort. All documents can verify this. Without the bombing of key factories and industry of Germany during World War II, there's no chance we would have won. Particularly when we had to take out certain key facilities such as the oil fields of Polizei, you know, that sort of thing. So no. The Germans would not approach when these Foo Fighters were around, although I think the Allied pilots were more interested in, hey, what the heck are those crazy things, than they were in the fact that the German fighters weren't coming around them when they were around. But nevertheless, this was our first confirmed, verified exposure, if you will, to these light beings. And as we'll see in the other vid, things get a little more personal.